So, you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm actually a little bit lit right now. I was over visiting some friends that I hadn't seen in a while, and we were playing a board game and drinking alcohol. So, I've got some rum in me, and I'm a little bit schnockered. But what better time to talk about a mildly sensitive issue than when you're tired and kind of drunk, right? Okay, so in the context of my video about, you know, the ability to kill, what had come up was that sometimes when you kill, you're doing it to save a life. And someone had said something about how when you're saving a life, you're taking another one is I don't know, whatever. But my reply, my retort was that you can save lives without necessarily killing. And I brought up the time that I had applied mouth to mouth to save a life. And someone had asked me to explain exactly what that was like, to describe when I'd saved a life with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. It wasn't CPR technically, because I think that's also the pump of the heart as well as giving breath. So all I had done was mouth-to-mouth. But regardless, it's a little painful to talk about actually, because the life that I had saved was at the time my girlfriend. How do I put this? Okay, so I was dating a girl who was an alcoholic and a crack addict at the time. And stupid me, I had broken up with her over this shit. And then got back together with her one night when we were I don't know, hanging out at a club or something. And I don't know why I loved this girl, but I did. There was something about her. She had this spirit, right? I mean, she seemed to grab life with both hands, even though she, like I say, she was an addict, And I mean, I've tested myself. There have been times when I was afraid that I might have an addictive personality, but I can actually say when. I can actually say, no, I've had enough. And she couldn't. And that was something I couldn't empathize with. But needless to say, I didn't even know she was a crack addict until this night. I knew she was an alcoholic. That much I knew. But she seemed to be kicking it. I mean, she had gone to AA. She had gone to various programs to stop. And she seemed to be stopping. But this night, somehow, we went out bar hopping. And then she wanted to, she said she wanted to show me an aspect of her life that I needed to be aware of if we were going to, to be together. And so she found a crack dealer in Seattle and she bought a rock. It was this little white pebble about this size. And the weird thing is, the cops showed up just as she was buying it. But we actually watched these cops, she hid it under her tongue or something, and we escaped before the cops could bust us. But the funny thing is, we watched the cops buy crack from this guy, so the cops weren't going to bust us. They were getting their own fucking crack, right? And so, okay, we go into this alley, and she smokes it, and then we go on with our night, right? And at this point, I didn't know what the fuck to do. I mean, I'd come from a very wholesome family. I mean, yeah, okay, my parents were hippies, but to the best of my knowledge, they've never done pot or anything else. My parents were like social hippies more than I don't know, cultural hippies. I don't know how to put it, but I mean, I'm sure my parents have tried various things. They weren't at Woodstock, but they might as well have been at times. But that was when I was I wasn't even born yet, and I'm adopted anyway, so whatever. But point is, I'd never been around actual drug use, not really. And so watching this girl do this was weird for me. And I didn't do any of the crack. I made sure of that. I was like still kind of drunk from going bar hopping, but I was like, nah, not for me. Not gonna happen. So later we go back to her place and everything seemed okay. I mean, I fell asleep. She stayed up all frickin' night because she was wired, right? Apparently, crack is a stimulant, and she was wired. So I wake up in the morning, and she's still up, and we're talking, and then at one point, her eyes roll up in the back of her head, and she slumps against the door frame and slides down. And I'm like, oh fuck, right? And now here I am, hungover but wide a fucking awake, and okay, in high school in high school health class we had been taught how to do CPR, and so here I am wide awake and massive headache, and she's on the ground, and I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And my training comes back to me, so I check her vitals, and sure enough, her heart is still beating, but she's not breathing at all, right? So I give her a couple of breaths, and you plug the nose, you open the mouth, and you put your mouth around theirs, and you give them breaths. And she would breathe for like 2 or 3 breaths after I gave her oxygen, or not oxygen, I gave her a breath, and then she'd breathe twice on her own, and then she'd stop again. So I give her a couple of breaths, quickly grab the phone, dial 911, give her a couple of breaths while I'm trying to hold the phone, which is not fucking easy, let me tell you. And then when the operator gets on, I'm like, hold on, I got to give her some more breaths. I give her some more breaths. She breathes 2 or 3 breaths. I'm like, here's her address. Come and fucking get us. She's not breathing. And they ask me a lot of questions. Did she do anything? What caused it? Blah, 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 all that stuff. But it, this is all a blur, right? And so, I keep giving her breaths until the EMTs finally show up. And they show up and they like injected something into her. There's some stimulant or something. I don't know what. And they take her to the hospital. And I'm not allowed to ride in the ambulance with her for some reason. And so I take her keys to make sure no one can bust into her place. And I go to a friend's house and cry my fucking eyes out. Okay? I mean, what would you do? This was trauma. Of course I cried my eyes out. I don't care how old I was, okay? I don't care how old you are. No one's doing that and being completely okay with it. So yeah, and then when she got home, I gave her keys back and made sure she got in okay, and we broke up. Because I'm not being with a girl who's doing crack. Okay, and I'm certainly not being with one whose life I have to save in that way. And I mean, I don't know if this makes me a hero or something. I just know that yes, I have in fact medically saved a life, and my point was that you don't have to kill somebody to save another person's life. Sometimes you can save a life in a completely safe way. But I mean, the point is that yeah, I that was a very difficult experience for me, and someone wanted to hear about it. I figure I'll talk about it, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. Please take the time to rate this video, and hey, if you dig what I do, subscribe. You might also enjoy my webcomic, The Adventures of Kinna Baxter. You'll find a link in the info bar, along with a link to my Zazzle store. Buy a t-shirt today. Vote me down and I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.